Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. Welcome back. Today I have for you my January TBR. So when I was forming this TBR, I thought it'd be really cool to do one of those TBR games. Pick a deck of cards or put some kind of spin on a board game that I've seen. And so I was watching dozens and dozens of January TBR videos and just seeing how all these other different booktubers are doing it. And they all looked fantastic. They all looked like it'd be a lot of fun. Like they all look like they're really big challenges. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that's not for me right now. They're fun to watch, but I just don't see myself being very successful with those because I like some kind of structure, but I'm a control freak. Let's just blatantly be honest. I'm a control freak and I don't want everything to be random and at chance. So I decided to just pick my TBR based off what was speaking to me, what I felt like reading, what was calling out to me, and what have you. So I have 7 physical books for you to see today, and I have one book that is on order that I'm waiting to come in, and that's my book club book. But I'll get to that later. So we're just gonna jump right in. And we're going to start with all of my challenge books. So I've got the Buzzword Challenge, I've got my Classics Challenge, and then I've got my TBR Jar Challenge. Those are the 3 challenges that needed an actual book. And my Buzzword Challenge for January was who, what, why, when, or where, the 5 W's. And in my book options on my shelf, because I want this challenge to be only books that I currently own prior to 2022, I had 2 books that could meet this requirement. And those were Lori Wick's Where the Wild Rose Blooms and Beth Harbison's When in Doubt Add Butter. After some much careful thought and deliberating, I decided to go with Lori Wick's Where the Wild Rose Blooms. This is a reread for me. The first time I read it, I was a freshman. Freshman in high school. Wow. God, that's such a long time ago. I was a freshman in high school, and I remember crying so much. I remember this book making me cry, making me stop and think, and also kind of give me a little bit of, ooh, look at me, because the main character's name is Jackie. And I thought that was really cool because I had never up to that point read a book where anybody's name in the book was named Jackie. So I remember being pumped about that. And then remember being devastated when certain events happened in the book. But the book always stuck with me. I always thought about it. I bought this book, this copy, only 2 years ago for my birthday because it kept popping in my head. I couldn't remember the title, but I could remember the story. And it just kept popping in. So I started doing research and trying to find it. And I finally found it and I bought it. And the fact that book stayed with me as long as it did tells me I really, really enjoyed it. And it's not disappointing. I've already started it. I'm halfway through, as you can see. And it's all coming back to me. I can picture myself sitting in my parents' chair on my rocking chair at my parents' house in the dead of winter because I read it over Christmas break. I remember seeing the tree in the corner, and I remember feeling the same feelings I'm feeling now as I'm reading it as a 34-year-old versus a 14-year-old. I remember all of it. I remember crying at the same parts. I remember feeling the same way. The only difference is because I know what happens. I know what's going to happen. That nervous feeling that you get when you know something's coming, but you just don't know what it is, what's going to happen. It's not as prevalent in my feelings. I feel more of kind of despair because I know what's going to happen. But it's not kind of bad, like hopelessness type deal, because I also know how it ends. So I'm having a very, very good rereading experience for this right now. So I'm very glad that I picked this one. But I'm a really big fan of Beth Harbison's work. I've read a lot of her books. So I decided to throw When in Doubt, Add Butter on my list as well. So I'm just going to do 2 for the buzzword challenge because I really like her writing, and this is the only Beth Harbison book that I own that I haven't read yet. So I might as well knock it off my shelf. And I know I'm going to love it because I love all of her books. They very fluffy, contemporary, but yet they still have a little steamy romance to them sometimes. And why the hell not? Let's do January big. Let's have some fun with it. So I put this one on the list as well. Go me. My next challenge is my classics challenge. I would like to read 1 classic book a month. And that's because I have recently acquired some of the Penguin cloth bound classics as gifts, and I really like to read them so I can say, look at all those pretty books over there. I read those. And the one I chose for this month was Jane Austen's Persuasion. This will be my first attempt at reading any Jane Austen to its completion. I have read excerpts. I've seen multiple films, but usually in my college literature courses or my high school literature courses, we only had blurbs or excerpts. I was never assigned to read an actual Jane Austen book. So this is my first attempt, and my father-in-law bought me the entire Jane Austen set for Christmas 2 years ago. So I decided to choose the smallest of that set, which is Persuasion. And isn't it gorgeous with the leaf? Those are quills. They might be quills. But see the spine. And this does not have end papers, but I love the green back paper choice color. But it's still a stunning book, and I'm very much looking forward to it. The only thing I have to say about this is because I have never read a Jane Austen book, if you have a recommendation for a first-time person reading Jane Austen, never touched it before, do you recommend reading this one first, or should I pick something else? I can pick something else because I was probably not going to read this till later on in the month of January, so I still have some time to change it out if it's better to read something else first as your first attempt in a Jane Austen. It's not my first classic, it's not my first book from that time period, but this is my first Jane Austen. So if you have any recommendations, if there's a better order to read them in, let me know. But for right now, Persuasion is on my list. And my last challenge is my TBR jar challenge, which there's my jar right there. You can see him. There's her right there. Was to read a book that is set at sea or on a ship. When I wrote this challenge, I knew I had a lot of books that were set at sea or on a ship, but there was one that stuck in my mind because I bought it a few years ago and I've never read it, and I really wanted to. So I decided to choose it, and that is Patrick O'Brian's Master and Commander. This was turned into a feature film in 2003 starring Russell Crowe. It was called Master and Commander: Far Side of the World. I can give or take the movie. When it's on, I watch it, but it's not usually the first thing I choose to watch when it comes to seafaring films. But I like the story enough that I wanted to read its base material. And so I bought the book for my birthday a few years ago, and I found out that it's the start of quite a long series. Like, I want to say there's like 14 or 17 books. It's a kind of a commitment series. So I'm a little about that, because if I like it, I'm just adding another series that's going to take forever to finish. But if I don't like it, at least I've read it. I know I don't have to go there again. But other than that, I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. And also my dad really wanted to read these books, so he hasn't read them until I read them, because he's got plenty of stuff on his own to read. So he's waiting for my suggestion on it. So I've got a little bit of writing on it. So wish me luck. I hope it goes well. I hope so, because I don't want to add another series on my list, but let's be honest, who doesn't want to add another series on their list? Like, you might not actually want to do it, but you know you're totally going to do it. So might as well make it a good one that has a lot of books. Right? Those are all my challenge books. Now, the next books I'm showing you are all free choice books. These are just ones that I saw and I'm like, I want to read that. That looks good. And the first one I chose was the first book in the Queen's Council series, Rebel Rose. This one is written by Emma Theriault. I'm not quite for sure you pronounce her name. And this is, it's based off Beauty and the Beast. It's not a retelling per se, as it's not starting from the beginning of the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale and telling you up until the end of the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale. What it does is it takes the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale as is, as it's happened, and then picks up right where it's left off. But where it picks up is not in a fairy tale setting. It picks up in the actual time frame that the story took place. So this, France during around the French Revolution. So now Belle has broken the spell and she is going to become queen, but the French Revolution is going on right now. So it's how she works within this fairy tale world around actual historical events. And when I heard that concept, I thought it was a brilliant idea. I thought it was fantastic. I do love fairy tale retellings, but this isn't, like I said, not really a retelling. It's more of a continuation, but it's historical continuation. It's not a fairy tale continuation. It's taking the fairy tale and it's bringing it into real life. And being a history major, that is awesome to me. I love French history. I took quite a few classes of it in college. So when I heard about this concept, this book was definitely been on my radar for a long time. And I am kind of shocked that I have not read it yet. So I definitely wanted to put it on the list this year. And I do know the second one's already out. I'm not for sure if the third one is. But all the books are being written by different people. So that's another really cool concept to the series. So I get different flavors of different authors. I love and hate when series do that because you don't really have the continuity. But in this series, I think it'll probably work because they're all different fairy tales they're using. So you do need a different voice for each princess. They all have a different way. They had a different mannerisms. They're in different areas of the world. Because the second one, I believe, is about Jasmine. So, yeah, I'm pretty stoked about this one. I'm kind of excited about it. And Belle was one of my favorites because, you know, the library. Let's be honest. The the next book I'm hoping to get to is a sequel in a series if you're going with the female side of the series, but it's the third book in the series if you go with the overall story. And I'll explain in a second. It is A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair. This is the sequel to A Touch of Darkness, which is a Hades and Persephone retelling. Now, the reason why I said it's the third book in the overall series is because what Scarlett St. Clair did is she has the Touch of series, what I'm calling the Touch of series, and that's Persephone's side of the story. It's told from Persephone's point of view. She's written a second series called the Game of series, and that, yes, Game of series, and that's Hades' perception. That's the same story from Hades' perspective, and they are in chronological. So I've already read A Touch of Ruin, and I've read A Game of Fate. So I've read both Hades and Persephone's viewpoints of the same initial story. So now this is kind of the second chapter of that story, and it's Persephone's view, and then I'll read Hades' view, and back and forth. I'm not reading them completely separate. I'm reading them mirroring themselves back to back so I can have the full story. These books have a lot of sex in them. Lots. And it's pretty graphic. And it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. I devoured Touch of Darkness. Touch of Darkness was the first book we read for my book club. One of my best friends, Cassie, picked it out because she had read it before, and we just were like, oh my God, this is amazing. We love this. And so I was hooked from there. My husband actually went and bought me I think for my birthday. I want to say it was for my birthday. It could have been for Mother's Day. Not quite for sure. Because they're the same month. um, they bought me the first book of Hades and then this one. So now I'm finally getting this one. So he'll be super happy that I'm reading a book that he picked out for me. The next book I would like to get to, but it is a chunker, and there's already quite a few here, but I would really like to get to is Diana Gabaldon's Outlander. This is also a reread for me. This is literally one of my favorite series. I love this book so much. It's one of my top 5 favorite books. And I would really like to reread the series this year because she just released her 9th book, Go Tell the Bees I'm Home, last November. And I am purchasing it with some of my Christmas money very, very soon. As soon as, Barnes & Noble gets some more in because they were sold out last time I went to go buy it. So I'd like to actually reread the series again. And so start from the very beginning. I have not watched the show. I've heard great things about the show, but I just haven't sat down and actually watched it because I don't want another Game of Thrones thing on my hands. I just don't want it. I don't think it'll happen, but I don't want to risk it. So I want to read the books before I watch the show and everything like that. So I'm really excited to delve back into this world because this book, oh my God. I was in love with Jamie Fraser from literally the first page he appears. Which is, I don't even remember where he appears, but he appears fairly soon, fairly early, and I loved him from that moment, and it was just, take me away, I'm yours, like, legit, I love him, so, yeah, I love his character so much. The last book is my book club book of the month, which is The Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. I do not have a physical copy because I have to order it. And that will be read for my book club, which will meet at the end of the month. I believe we're meeting at the end of the month, and we just sit there and have the Red Witch Bitchin' Book Club. And that's what we do. We sit there and drink wine and we bitch about our books. Yeah, we bitch about them. We talk about them and we discuss them, and then we just bitch about things that make us angry. Because why the hell not? But that is my TBR for January. It's kind of hefty. Okay, not kind of. It is hefty. It is a hefty book. It is a hefty TBR. But I do believe I can do it. I've got definitely a lot of pockets of time to be able to take care of this. So I'm going to hold this up and we're going to see how big the sack is. Isn't it pretty? It's very, not color coordinated. It is until you get to this one, and then it's kind of nice color coordinated. But yeah, so this is my TBR for January. Wish me luck, and I would love to know what you guys are reading, and I would love to know what your guys' opinions are on some of these books if you have read them. So until next time, I will see you later. Have a good one and be safe. Bye, guys.